Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping straight down a multi-billion-dollar digital rabbit hole that has, quite literally, rewired modern human interaction. We're looking at a system deliberately engineered to financialize loneliness. It's a highly optimized industrial-scale extraction machine, and honestly, the sheer mechanics at it are absolutely fascinating.
Okay, let's dive into this. 450 pounds. That is what a man paid for a completely empty cardboard box. Zilch. Nada. Nothing inside. So why on earth drop that kind of cash on empty cardboard? Simply because it was briefly touched by an OnlyFans model. This single transaction perfectly captures the bizarre, hyper-monetized landscape we're about to explore today.
To understand how all of this actually works, here's our roadmap. First, we're defining the simp economy. Then we'll look at the male loneliness epidemic, followed by the industrialized sales pyramid. After that, we'll uncover ghost chatters and AI. And finally, wrap up with logging off.
All right, Section 1, Defining the Simp Economy. Let's get our terms straight. The source material breaks down two really critical definitions for us. The first is a simp. This refers to a man providing excessive attention and unreciprocated financial capital in a desperate, totally one-sided quest for intimacy. And the psychological engine running this whole thing, it's called the parasocial relationship. That's a one-sided bond where a user pours immense emotional and financial energy into a creator who, in reality, treats them purely as a line item on a spreadsheet. We need to be clear here, this isn't just harmless internet slang. It is an industrial-scale financial extraction machine.
And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer scale of the phenomenon. $7.2 billion. That's the mind-boggling amount users spent on OnlyFans in just a single year. To really put that into perspective, the parent company nets over $1.4 billion in corporate revenue annually. That makes it one of the most profitable tech firms on the entire planet per employee.
So you've got to ask, who exactly is generating all this massive wealth? Well, the data shows that an overwhelming 84% of these paying users are male, and the vast majority of that demographic falls squarely between the ages of 18 and 34. Moving right along to Section 2, the male loneliness epidemic, or as it's often called, a friendship recession. Why are millions of young men dipping so deeply into their pockets for digital interactions? Well, get a load of this terrifying statistic. Over a quarter of men under the age of 30 report having literally zero close social connections. None. Young men today are navigating a massive global loneliness epidemic. They have fewer close friends and fewer romantic relationships than at any other point in modern recorded history. So, the crucial point is that the market responded exactly how you'd expect it to. As the source highlights, modern platforms looked at this great aching chasm of male isolation and said, wait a minute, what if we put a card reader on that? They have ruthlessly commodified the most basic, fundamental human desire for romantic connection. That brings us to Section 3, the industrialized sales pyramid, and the mechanics of industrial extraction. Let's move to and see how this builds into a highly optimized sales funnel specifically targeting right-handed young men. It happens in 3 distinct steps. First up is the bait. Think free content on social media, where a creator looks directly into the lens. It creates this powerful, totally manufactured illusion of eye contact for millions of isolated men simultaneously. Step 2, the cover charge. The user enters a gated community for, say, $9.99 a month, thinking they've joined some exclusive club. But, that's just to get in the door. Step 3 is the VIP churn. And this is where the real money is made. The creator sends mass-locked direct messages to tens of thousands of subscribers at once, framing it as a highly personal, intimate message that requires an extra $20 just to unlock. At the absolute apex of this pyramid are what the industry calls whales. Notice that tiny 4.2% sliver? That tiny group generates the overwhelming majority of the platform's revenue. We're talking about high net worth users who treat their bank accounts like weapons in a digital coliseum. These are individuals paying out millions, in one reported case up to $7 million, just to compete for the illusion of intimacy. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how objectively extreme these parasocial relationships can get. Normal logic completely evaporates here. Look at these commodities. We have a creator who sold used bathwater for $30 a jar, racking up $90,000 in profit in 3 days. Another creator run out her sweat-soaked gym clothes into vials, selling them for up to 150 pounds each, and eventually bought a 200,000-pound house in cash. And at the absolute limit,
A reality TV star sold her own flatulence in jars for $1,000 a pop. She made over $200,000 before her high-protein diet literally hospitalized her with chest pains. I mean, these men are paying premium, luxury prices for what is legally classified as biological waste.
Okay, Section 4, Ghost Chatters and AI. This is where we uncover the corporate illusion. Despite what's promised in the marketing, these platforms are definitely not a guaranteed ticket to wealth for independent creators. In fact, the average unmanaged creator earns just $130 a month. The harsh reality is that the top 0.1% of accounts capture 76% of all the money. To break into that elite tier, top creators are increasingly handing over their digital identities to corporate OnlyFans management agencies. And when those creators hand over their accounts, a wild dynamic is created. The consumer truly believes they're buying a genuine, intimate connection with a beautiful creator via direct message. But the reality? The subscriber is actually playing high-stakes financial chess against a 34-year-old corporate copywriter sitting at a desk in a former Soviet bloc. It's essentially an industrialized catfishing operation. Let's look at the ruthless corporate playbook leaked from these agencies. The creator's only job is to upload raw photos to a shared drive. From there, the agency takes the wheel using ghost chatters. They're running 24/7 rotating shifts of professional chatters armed with comprehensive training manuals and psychological profiling tools. They meticulously track every subscriber's financial history. The manuals literally instruct chatters on how to validate a user's emotions, making them feel strong if they had a rough day at work, just to lock the very next message behind a $50 paywall. And for orchestrating all this, the agency takes a massive 30 to 50% cut of the gross revenue. The subscribers' emotional vulnerabilities are being treated purely as a software optimization problem. But the industry is crossing into a terrifying new frontier. Human chatters, well, they require shift pay and sleep. Artificial intelligence does not. Tech startups are now rolling out generative AI clones based entirely on creators' voice and text histories. These synthetic models can chat with 100,000 men simultaneously in 80 different languages with flawless contextual memory and absolutely zero overhead cost. It provides a perfectly compliant, endlessly available synthetic relationship that requires no social skills, no mutual compromise, and absolutely zero personal growth from the user. Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, Logging Off, the solution. So, where does this all leave us? We have to recognize that these platforms bleed wealth through active emotional manipulation. Notice how this gamification loop uses the exact same predatory user retention strategies as mobile gambling apps. They leverage deep social shame. Men who spend massive amounts of money don't brag about it, they hide it. The platforms use dopamine hits from virtual likes and color-coded digital badges for high tippers. This creates a hierarchy that keeps isolated users trapped in secrecy, all while transferring their wealth straight to tech platforms. The source makes a really important point here. The desire for connection, intimacy, and validation isn't some sort of weakness. It's a fundamental human trait. But, as this quote beautifully summarizes, the tragedy is that these users are being offered a plastic, corporate counterfeit of that desire, and they're being charged premium monthly rates for the privilege. Their deeply human needs are simply being hijacked by venture capital funds. The proposed antidote requires a lot of courage. The source pleads with the audience to pull the mask off the machine and stop funding algorithms with our isolation. The solution outlined is simple, but definitely not easy. Have the courage to log off. Reinvest that wealth back into the real, messy world. Buy a gym membership, take a class, reconnect with your old friends. Go through the agonizing, beautiful process of building relationships with real people who have actual flaws, but who can actually love you back. Which leaves us with a final provocative thought to consider. Will we continue to fund algorithms that mathematically commodify our isolation, or will we find the courage to step back into the real world? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope this deep dive has given you a much clearer picture of the digital landscape around us and encourages all of us to seek out authentic, real-world connection.